Tonight's big stories. The Chinese government summons the Philippines envoy to China after President Marcos congratulated Taiwan's president-elect on his victory. China wants an explanation on the message as they claim that it violated the One China policy.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines seeks to further develop occupied islands in the West Philippine Sea to make it more habitable for its personnel. We'll discuss this further with AFP Spokesperson Francel Padilla later in the show.
The agriculture sector is bracing for the full impact of El Nino this year, but the government admits having no budget for cash assistance to farmers. How is this going to affect the sector? We'll ask Federation of Free Farmers National Manager Raul Montemayor.
Welcome to the show. I'm Rachel Hong.
I'm Riza Diaz.
And I'm Shania.
Reno lang tayo saglit mula sa Chacha. We've been
Welcome
discussing
change.
that for 2 weeks now. And let's shift gears over to agriculture. We've been talking about signatures in exchange for ayuda, but over in the farming sector, the government admits having no budget for cash assistance for farmers.
As of now, wala dahil we are technically there's no fund to help them. As far as cash ayuda is concerned, I'm actually not a believer in that. I'd rather give farm implements, no, like seeds, fertilizer, something else, or you know. Pero definitely we will try our best na makatulong tayo kasi yun ang mandato natin eh.
That was Agriculture Chief Francisco Laurel's response when asked about what the government can do to help vegetable farmers who have been incurring losses due to a reported oversupply of produce. Farmers and traders in the Cordilleras welcomed the new year selling vegetables at a loss, with some opting to just throw away unsold supply. The DA Cordillera office said a lack of demand from buyers could be the reason for the excess supply.
Pero nakuha niyo ba yung mga messages sa Viber na meron nga daw sobrang daming repolyo coming from the Cordilleras? Tapos may parang mga ibang church na nagbebenta. Well, yung mga nakuha kong forwarded messages is supposedly galing pa sa auntie ko. Sabi niya, nagbebenta daw tong church ng mga oversupply na repolyo.
Mas sa totoo lang, hindi naman bago yung problema. During the pandemic, we also saw a lot of that. Like, there were many people struggling with high prices of produce, but also in other parts of the country, ang dami ring oversupply, tinatapon-tapon na lang. So, isa yung malaking problema dun sa Cordillera region.
And actually, nabasa ko kanina, ang sinabi ni Secretary of Agriculture, Laurel, is that yung problema daw is poor planning. Yung planning daw yung problema, kaya hindi nagtutugma kung ano ba talaga, nagsasabay-sabay mag-harvest.
Yeah, and that led him to kind of like saying na walang budget for ayuda,
Yes.
for
And he
cash
also,
aid.
apart
For
from
cash
that,
aid.
he said that's also why daw they're planning to digitalize the DA so they can tell na parang kung ano ba yung mga ina-expect natin na produce versus...
Actually, yung dyan, kasi punta rin ako sa farm eh. Tinatanong ko rin yan bakit nga ba nagkakaproblema dun sa supply? Ba't nagkaka-oversupply? Kasi yung crop programming is one of the problems that we have. Kung wari, ito, they keep on planting a certain crop, tapos everybody plants the same crop, and now you have
Sabay-sabay
an oversupply of something.
Right.
Sabay-sabay
Tama yun, wala tayong data to
Yeah.
chart what's being planted in certain parts of the country, tapos dito, and until when, kasi usually ni-rotate nila yung crops na yan eh.
Ito yung exciting. At least mukhang modern si Secretary Laurel.
And they're looking into it. Like, this is,
and they're using
one
tech
of the
to
roots
try
of the
to
problem.
address...
I think that's a good direction.
It's a good direction. Now, ang tanong kung matutuloy ba siya? Because knowing the problem and then actually getting to solve it within the Philippine context is a whole other thing. Ngayon, yung goal nila is to put up yung mga lack of storage facilities and post-harvest facilities nationwide by 2025 daw. The DA says this would require 5 billion pesos. They will also need some 93 billion pesos for post-harvest facilities. Secretary Laurel says he still doesn't know where to get the money for that, but that they will work on it. He says these post-harvest upgrades could save over 10 billion pesos worth of rice and corn, which go to waste every year.
30% of our produce, especially of vegetables, is gone because of wastage, no? Because of the poor logistics system in our food supply chain. If we can lessen or hopefully almost eliminate yung losses na yon, that would be equivalent to at least 10 to 15% less cost sa ating mga vegetables and high-value crops like fruits.
All right, let's talk about financial assistance and modernization plans for the agri-sector some more. Joining us tonight over Zoom is Mr. Raul Montemayor, National Manager for the Federation of Free Farmers. Raul, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good evening, Gretchen, Riza, and Sean. Thank you also for inviting me.
Alright, so I'm pretty sure by now nabalitaan mo na no, kung ano yung mga sinabi today ni Agri-Secretary Kiko Laurel. Unahin na natin no, yung oversupply of repolyo na nararanasan currently. Ano po ba nagyayari pag nagkaka-oversupply? Is there an existing mechanism for farmers to address this kung nalulugi sila? And at which point doon sa proseso, does the government actually step in if they do at all?
Yeah, well, oversupply dahil maraming nagtanim and as you said, sabay-sabay umaani. And then yung demand mo naman ng gulay, hindi naman ganun karami. So yung mga traders, no, they only buy what they can sell in the markets here in Manila. They will not buy more than that kasi sila ang malulugi. No? So ang kawawa dyan, yung farmer, ayaw bilhin ng trader kasi sobra na, o kaya bibili niya sa napaka-mababang presyo. No? So you are correct actually when you say that it starts with production planning. No? Yung farmer kasi hindi niya alam kung ilan na nagtanim ng cabbage kunyari. Parang sugal na lang yun. Tanim na lang siya ng tanim. Bahala na kung ano yung mangyari pag harvest time. No? And in many cases, especially since they harvest all at the same time, nagkakaroon ng glut sa market at masyado mababa yung presyo.
So tama yung direksyon po ni Secretary Laurel na maybe if we digitize, tapos magkaroon siya ng overview kung ano po yung mga pinaplan sa iba't ibang mga probinsya and regions. Do you think, being kayo po yung representation no, ng farmers dito, is this going to be effective? Is it time na gawin na ito?
That is part of the solution. No? Market information that is given to the farmers so that they can make enlightened decisions on what to plant, when, and in what volume or quantity. No? Sa ngayon, wala yung ganun eh. Basta tanim lang sila, bahala na. No? But that's only part of the solution. Eh. You also have a problem with credit. No? So when actually yung credit medyo masalimuot na issue yon dahil pag humiram yung farmer sa isang trader maliban sa nakakakuha siya ng puhunan, the trader is also his market, no? So although medyo the trader tends to take advantage of the farmer in that kind of relationship, assured yung market niya because the trader has to buy from that farmer, otherwise he cannot collect on his loan. No? Ngayon, pag nag-independent yung farmer at hindi siya umutang, saka nagtanim siya, ang problema niya, pag-ani niya, baka walang bibili ng produkto niya. And that might have happened to some of these people. No? They overproduce without a sure market for their products. No?
In short,
And then, of course,
oo.
yes. Okay.
In the production
Yeah.
chain, medyo dehado po talaga yung farmer, empowered ang traders natin with the current system. Taking a look at the proposal to invest 5 billion in cold storage facilities and 93 billion in post-harvest facilities, will that empower our farmers and is that the right solution po dun po sa oversupply?
Again, that is part of the solution. If we start with market, with information, then credit, and then post-harvest. Dahil pag masyadong marami yung inani, hindi mabibenta, you have to find a way to store that, otherwise mabubulok. No? But sabi ko nga sa kanila, in the case of onions, you cannot just put up a facility like a storage facility and hope that everything will be okay. Because ang gusto ng farmer, pag ani niya, may pera siya. No? Hindi pwedeng cold storage lang, maghihintay sa kung ilang linggo o buwan, wala siyang pera, tapos may gastos pa yung cold storage. Somebody has to pay for the cost of storing it. No? So ang sinasabi ko sa kanila, when you put up a cold storage or any other storage facility, sabayan mo yan ng inventory financing. No? Meaning, when the farmer deposits his products in that cold storage, he can borrow against that. Portion lang ng value, pero he can borrow against that. Ang collateral niya, yung stocks. No? So that when he comes back, may dala siyang konting pera pambayad sa konting utang o papakain sa pamilya. So, a very important cold storage definitely, but by itself, it might not be enough.
So, bali, sa nakikita ninyo and what you have been saying, Raul, no, financing is a big issue from credit to cash flow and everything. Ngayon, nung isa pa nating pinag-uusapan at of course, nabanggit kanina ni Secretary Q. Laurel, yung ayuda nga, na wala daw siyang mabibigay na ayuda for all of this. Now, sa pananaw ninyo, nabanggit rin ni Secretary no, na hindi siya fan ng ayuda, mas gusto daw niya farm implements ang ipapamigay. What do you think of that idea? And of course, malayo pa tayo dun sa may proper financial planning and system for agri. Pero for now, sapat na ba na ayuda lang ibigay? Either in cash or in kind?
When I first read that story, ang dating sa akin parang insensitive yung remark ni Secretary. No? Pero when I read the article in full, then I think in fairness to the Secretary, what he meant was probably that giving cash aid to compensate farmers for their losses is not the best way to help them. No? Of course, in the short term, may pera yung farmer, ayuda, but sinong government agency or even private company ang magbibigay ng pera sa mga tao dahil nalugi sila sa negosyo? No? I think yung sinasabi ni Secretary is let's address the problems that will help farmers avoid this kind of situation in the future,
Right.
lower their costs, and then expand their access to markets. Doon tayo mag-invest ng pera.
Right.
May pera sila pero hindi pang ayuda. And that the Secretary feels that it's not the best way to spend the money. Ganun yung pagtingin niya. And if not that, then let's spend it for something like you said, information, credit, post-harvest facilities. No? And then the fourth component that's very important is the marketing and logistics side. No? You have cold storage, but how do you bring it to Manila at the least cost possible? No? And when you bring it to Manila, who will buy it there? No? So kailangan buuin mo yung, sabi niya, value chain, production all the way to marketing. Bubuuin mo yon until it reaches the consumers. No? And, we have online systems like Shopee. Why can't we have a Shopee for farmers' products? No? They can sell their lettuce, for example, to a consumer in Manila. Pero dapat may logistics system para pagka nag-ayusan yung benta, somebody has to bring that product to the consumer in Manila. So again, that's another important component of the system that has to be built up.
Raul, shifting, still on ayuda, pero para naman dun sa El Nino na nabanggit last year sa maapektuhan ng mga farmers, may pinag-uusapan na around 15 billion o anong
15,000 pala per farmer.
o per farmer nung nakaraang taon. Meron po ba kayong update dito? Was this distributed? Naging maayos ba ang distribution? At meron po bang iba pang abiso about this year?
Yes, well, maybe brief background of that cash assistance for rice farmers. There is a law that says that when we opened up our market to rice imports, there is a possibility that the farmers will be affected by the inflow of very cheap imports. No? So yung cash assistance na yan is supposed to compensate the farmers for the losses that arise from these cheap imports. No? Medyo iba yung storya dyan. No? Kasi dito nalugi sila dahil na hindi nila na-anticipate yung supply. No? Pero in the case of rice, it's because of the law that opened up the market to rice imports. So nabibigay na yan, I think. Pero medyo delayed siya. No? But the money comes from the collection of tariffs from rice imports. And it's supposed to be distributed to the rice farmers to help them out. Now, of course, ang original purpose niyan parang pang-offset sa losses sa rice imports. But when the farmer receives 5,000 or 10,000 pesos, he can use it actually for anything.
Raul, anong update pala pagdating dun sa Kadiwa stores? Because that has been mentioned also when talking about access to markets. Has
Yes.
that helped the agricultural supply and demand? And also, posible po ba na yung LGUs ang direktang bumili? For example, Quezon City buying from Cordillera, buying the oversupply so they can sell it cheaper. I know there's legislation on that. I'm not quite sure what's the status. Parang may legalities involved there. Can you enlighten us on what is possible in dealing with this oversupply? Pati rin po yung progress ng Kadiwa.
Well, that will help. No? LGUs, even church groups now are buying, and then you have Kadiwa. No? Pero para sa akin, those are palliative solutions. And they can help, but they will not solve the problem because the problem is too big for the government or the LGUs to handle. No? So, yun, Kadiwa, yes, no, but how much volume can they actually buy and sell to the market when they have very limited outlets? No? Your big outlet is the palengke, the talipapa, the supermarkets. No? Maybe what DA should do will be to find a way so that these products can flow to these outlets in a faster and cheaper way. No? And if possible, yung sabi nyo, direkta na doon, wag nang maraming middleman sa gitna. So ganun yung challenge, no? Na I think as Secretary Laurel would think, no, that is where we should invest our money.
Okay. Raul, quick question lang. Today, you pointed out, no, napaka-clear. Market information kailangan natin. Farmers need credit, post-harvest facilities, marketing, and logistics. Now, I'm pretty sure hindi naman to ganun kahirap makita when you look at our agri-sector and try to determine ano ba yung problema, what's wrong with it. From what you have seen over the years, bakit ba walang na-achieve? I understand these are big investments, right? The secretary kanina, the current secretary said, ayaw daw niya yung putyo-putyo na maliliit na mga post-harvest facility dito, konting storage dito. Wala daw cohesion yung plano, and that's why he wants to go big time because that's the way to solve it. But like you said, it's only one part. So ano bang nagyari? In plain English, over the years, bakit walang nakapag-address kahit one prong of this multi-pronged problem?
Maski yung data, kulang-kulang.
Oo, miski yun. As simple as planning, di ba?
Yeah, kasi piecemeal nga yung approach. And most of the time, reactive. No? There is a problem, let's put up post-harvest facilities. No? Nakalimutan yung financing, nakalimutan yung production programming, nakalimutan yung marketing. So, putting in just one or addressing just one part of the problem will not solve the problem in this case. No? Pero at the same time, maraming kailangan gawin. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabay-sabayin lahat yan. But there has to be some medium to long range plan na once and for all, let's fix all of these problems little by little. Address it in a comprehensive way. So that you plug all the loopholes and the problems in that system. No? Madali lang naman intindihin palagay ko yung problema, di ba? Like we were discussing, from the production side, and then yung traders credit, and then yung post-harvest, and then bringing it to, it's a very simple concept naman and almost all products go through that route, no? Pero yun na nga nakakapagtaka with the billions that they're spending in the department, how come the problem never gets solved? No?
That is, of course, the question we are all asking, di ba? Lagi na lang every year. Pero maraming salamat no, sa oras nyo ngayong gabi. Thank you so much for joining us. Federation of Free Farmers, National Manager Raul Montemayor. Salamat, Raul.
Sige, maraming salamat din. Good night.
From the agricultural sector to the transportation department. Now, the DOTR and the LTFRB have filed a petition for dismissal in the Supreme Court against the legal challenge to the PUV modernization program. In a 65-page comment, the DOTR and the LTFRB, through the Office of the Solicitor General, argued that the petitions filed by Piston and other transport groups should be dismissed outright on procedural grounds. Recall that petitioners are asking the SC to declare null and void several DOTR and LTFRB issuances, as well as issue a temporary restraining order to prevent the two government agencies from enforcing the issuances. In their comment, the DOTR and the LTFRB also said the petition was not in accordance with the hierarchy of courts and failed to satisfy the requisites for a judicial review. The agencies also argued that the issuances do not violate due process, equal protection, the right against unreasonable seizures, and the right to freedom of association. They also contended that the issuances do not violate their right to gainful employment and livelihood, asserting that these only regulate said rights by providing reasonable requirements for the comfort and safety of other individuals. And up next, the Armed Forces is set to ramp up development in maritime features occupied by the Philippines. How will that development push look like? We'll get details straight from AFP Spokesperson Colonel Francel Padilla. Don't go away.
Watching the big story here on One News. Now, some positive development for the AFP. The government is said to be focusing on developing all of the country's occupied islands and features in the West Philippine Sea. This was confirmed by AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Browner Jr. during a press conference on Monday. Currently, there are ongoing adjustments for the Horizon 3 or the third phase of the AFP modernization program. Now, last year, Defense Secretary Gibo Chodoro ordered a review of the plan to make it more suited to the needs of the AFP. Now, according to Browner, the new Horizon 3 focuses on the concept of archipelagic defense. Now, among the priorities of the AFP is to establish infrastructures on the 9 features occupied by the Philippines within the Kalayaan Island Group in the West Philippine Sea. Now, these are Ayungin Shoal, Pagas Island, Lawak Island, Parola Island, Patag Island, Kota Island, Rizal Reef, Likas Island, and Panata Island.
We will also focus on developing the islands and the other features that we are occupying. What we are actually trying to do is that we are making these features more habitable for our troops. Kasi may mga tropa po tayo dyan eh. May mga Marines tayo dyan sa area na yan.
Let's discuss the matter further. We have with us on the line AFP Spokesperson Francel Padilla. Good evening, Spokes, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Gretchen. This is Sean.
Okay. Colonel Francel, okay, talk to us about the developments on the islands and features in the West Philippine Sea. Ano po kaya, what would those pictures look like?
The AFP, ma'am, clarified that of the in the 7 and pictures with the Philippines in the Philippine Sea. So, I have heard the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, General Brown, yung ginagawa nating pag-improve ng facility is actually responsibility obligation of the AFP soldiers. We are
Colonel, medyo choppy lang po yung line.
yes,
Hi, Colonel. Hello. Are you still there?
yes.
Ayan, medyo
Yes,
choppy
ma'am.
po
Yes,
yung line.
ma'am.
Ayun, it's better now, I think.
Yun, oo.
Sorry,
Sige
hindi
po.
po namin masyado carry on po. Naiintindihan po lang namin na so far, the last thing you said that we understood was that kumbaga, tungkulin ninyo sa members of the AFP na ayusin yung facilities on the 9 islands. Pero carry on po.
Yes, ma'am. So we are making these features more habitable for our troops. So yun nga, ma'am, ang sabi, we have Marines in the area. So this development will actually align with our commitment to maintain a presence in the West Philippine Sea and of course, secure our interests in the region na rin po.
Okay, so Bale, just to clarify, Colonel, you're just improving existing facilities, meaning walang bagong development. Everything is already pre-existing. Aayusin na lang, kumbaga, i-renovate.
Yes, ma'am. So the development of these islands in the West Philippine Sea is actually brought about by a sovereign decision. So ang aim nito, ma'am, is to enhance the living conditions of our troops which are stationed in the region. So, syempre, ma'am, the AFP leadership will safeguard the morale and welfare of the troops. And part of this is providing suitable living facilities and environments for them.
Yung BRP Sierra Madre, kasama po kaya? Parang wala dun sa listahan eh.
Kasama siya, ma'am. Lahat po nung ng mga facilities that we have in those regions, we will improve po for 2024 onwards.
Can you talk us, Colonel, through the decision-making process? How did you decide na itong 9 muna yung gagawin natin or ito muna yung list and in terms of priorities? Kasi we have no idea what are on these islands. Maybe a lot of Filipinos have never even been there or set foot there. Gretchen almost did, pero hindi siya natuloy. So can you talk us through, are these barracks, living facilities,
Without compromising
Without
national
compromising,
security,
yes.
of course, whatever you can reveal to us at this point.
Yes, ma'am. We have, ma'am, we have 7 islands and 2 features. So to each his own, kung ano po yung existing that we have in all of these features,
Yes.
the 9 features, that's what we're going to improve. But as to the scope of work, of what's going to be improved, that will vary for each feature. Siyempre, ma'am, iba-iba yung requirements for those. Depends on how many is occupying them, how big the area is. So, ganun po siya. It's part of the annual budget for maintenance and repair works. So, dahil po part siya nun, syempre po, kung ano din po yung na-allot na fund for that for the year, that's the scope of work that's gonna be done.
Okay. Colonel, matanong ko lang kasi naalala ko yung Christmas convoy. In-announce po natin yun na paghandaan ng China. This time, we're also announcing it. Hindi po ba paghahandaan din po ng China yon? And also, if we are having already difficulty with bringing construction materials across the seas, how do we plan on making this a reality?
We have continuous operations, di ba? So, lahat po ng natin is resupply. Again, the goal is for the morale and welfare of troops. So this includes na rin po yun. So we can do it by piecemeal, we can do it on a larger scale. At this point, ma'am, we do not have the necessary laid out plan that we can divulge to the public as of this time, because even the plans for these features are being crafted as of this now. So we're still in January. So as we go along with the succeeding days, we'll have more details on this.
Colonel, may mga efforts ba from other government agencies na makukuha kayo in aid for, of course, or international partners for these development plans?
Lahat naman yan, ma'am, continuous that we're continuously doing. No? So we have collaboration efforts, especially with those like-minded countries, with our allies. So lahat yan, ma'am, depends on the scope of work and depends on what their commitment is. So we'll know for sure in the succeeding days.
Wait, can you clarify that a bit, Spokes? No? Kasi kanina nabanggit niyo na sovereign decision ito. Nabanggit nyo rin na this will be funded by the national budget, by the GAA. Having said that, are we also looking at other maybe works or developments that can be co-funded or by other countries, by our allies? Or wala namang ganun? And this is all sovereign?
At this point, yes, ma'am. At this point, ma'am, wala pa naman pong binibigay sa amin na data as to commitments from other allied countries in terms of this endeavor. So sa ngayon po, what we can actually state is yun pa lang po from our national budget.
Okay. How about vessels, additional vessels to support our RORE missions and I guess reinforce security there? And wala po bang additional military installations like, yun nga po sinasabi nga ni Sean, ano? May improvement tayo, pero kasi parang may nababasa ako na you're also working on an airport runway.
For now, ma'am, what we can actually state is that we'll be having equipment such as desalination machine, which is crucial addition, especially for the troops, lalong-lalo na po sa BRP Sierra Madre. So this will address the need for a sustainable water source for our troops aboard ship. For our modernization projects, however, we will have that on top of that, our acquisition of more ships, aircraft, radars, and other communication equipment. So these are all in the pipeline po.
Okay, so bale more of sa parang habitability ng mga isla ang concerns with
Starlink,
these projects.
meron na po ba? Kasi kausap ko yung mga sundalo doon eh. Sabi nila, communication lang, sapat na para sa kanila.
Yes, ma'am. When the Chief of Staff went around and visited these features, there's been commitment from his end. And masaya naman po yung mga tropa natin, ma'am, kung ano po yung na-offer natin for them.
Colonel, what's the timeline for the implementation of this development projects?
Ma'am, it's going to be a continuous effort. So this is the whole of 2024 budget, and it will be included in the succeeding years as well. So continuous po siya, ma'am. Kasi morale and welfare effort siya, maintenance and repairs, continuous po siya, ma'am, every year.
Ako, napakalaking bagay po seeing efforts and priorities shift in this direction just so we don't see the same narrative over and over again na parang lagi po tayong nakakanyon ng tubig at kung ano-ano pa. So malaking bagay po yan at good news for our national defense and security. And thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving us some details that you could share with us on the big story tonight. AFP Spokesperson Colonel Francel Padilla. Meanwhile, in the weather, there's no tropical cyclone inside the Philippine area of responsibility, but many areas in the Davao region were hit by heavy rains and floods starting last night, prompting the evacuation of some residents. In Compostela, Davao de Oro, residents had to wade through chest-level floods. According to the uploader of this clip, some of the affected residents seem to not mind the danger of doing so to save their loved ones who were stuck in their homes submerged in floodwaters. In New Bataan, still in Davao de Oro, residents woke up to raging floodwaters in Barangay Andap. The rainfall muddied the waters of the Mayo River, which almost overflowed. Some areas in Barangay Nabunturan were also submerged in flood. Rescuers had to use ropes to rescue affected residents. Now over in Barangay Bunawan, Davao City, floodwaters were waist deep after it rained overnight. Waters from a nearby river that has overflown have reached houses. This prompted the Davao City LGU to evacuate affected residents. Some residents even took the initiative to leave their homes and head to the evacuation center.
Pinalalabas namin sila so that for their safety purposes po, in case of tataas po yung water, wala na pong tao sa looban.
Parati na kasing bumabaha dito kaya hindi na kami naghihintay sa barangay na mag-evacuate. Kusa na lang kaming nag-evacuate.
Pero ano nga ba ang cost nitong matinding pagbaha kahit wala namang bagyo? Well, according to Pag-asa, the heavy rains are caused by the shear line or the convergence of hot and cold air. It's also possible for the heavy rainfall warning to remain over in the Davao region until tomorrow.
Okay, break muna tayo. Pero right after that, eto na. The discussions on charter change continue in the Senate, with Senator Amy Marcos believing that her brother, President Bongbong Marcos, is against the move. More on that when we return. Keep it here on The Big Story. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. Dead on arrival. That's how Senator Amy Marcos described the People's Initiative launched by some congressmen in their push for charter change. Senator Amy said this after her brother, President Marcos, said that the Senate should be the one to lead talks on Chacha, adding that the People's Initiative is divisive. After the president made that statement, Senate President Mig Zubiri filed a resolution proposing amendments to limited economic provisions of the charter. Now, while Senator Marcos believes that this move essentially puts a stop to the People's Initiative, she also believes that the Senate resolution remains questionable. The resolution only limits amendments to economic provisions on education, public services and advertising. But Senator Amy says that there is still danger of political provisions being amended once the charter is opened.
Kinakabahan pa rin ako. It doesn't generate any confidence, at least on my part, that there will be a limitation to a mere 3 provisions. Baka masingitan na naman kami kasi hindi kami nag-iisip ng pasingit-singit, papuslit-puslit. Ay naku, nakaka-nervous talaga.
Bilang kapatid ng Pangulo, iba rin daw ang basa ni Senator Amy Marcos sa sinabi ni President Bongbong Marcos kay Senate President Zubiri at House Speaker Romualdez na pag-aralan muna ang charter change. For Senator Amy, this is President Marcos' way of saying that this is not the right time for Chacha.
Ako yun nasabon ng bonggang-bongga, may batok pa. Pero yung kapatid ko, iba style nun mas mabait yun. Kung alam mong pakinggan, pag sinabi sa'yo, pag-aralan natin, ibig sabihin, wag muna, tigilan muna yan.
Sino po sana yung bonggang-bongga niyo pong sasabonin na may batok pa?
Siyempre, sa Congress, kakausapin, hindi ko naman babatukan. Si Speaker naman, kung galing ba kay Speaker, kung galing kung kanino dyan sa liderato ng Congress, tigilan muna yan. Tutok muna tayo sa problema ng tao.
Very interesting to see it when the family dynamic comes into play.
True.
The sister of the president, of course. At sinasabi nga niya, wala daw benepisyo sa taong bayan itong Chacha. Iba raw yung makikinabang dito.
Yun din ang sinasabi sa atin kagabi, ni Attorney Christian Monzon, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution. And in fairness, parang 2 dekada na niya paulit-ulit sinasabi yun, maybe more.
Kasi sinabi naman niya na yung pagdating sa public services, advertising, at saka education, kumbaga parang yung public services, nagawa na nga natin ng panibagong batas yan, di ba? Tapos yung advertising, kumbaga bakit nag-zero in on that? There's another way to go about it in terms of yung creative work. Pwede naman tayo kumuha, mag-source sa labas. At yung education, pwede naman din, kumbaga, pag-aralan na.
So, hindi kailangan ng
Hindi
charter
kailangan ng
change.
charter change. Yun ang
Kaya sinasabi niya, baka
Bakit yun?
may ibang interest.
Yun.
Baka may gusto daw na maging Prime Minister. Alam mo yun?
Sino nga?
At saka yun
Tinanong siya.
Pero yung consistent siya na yun yung sinasabi niya parate, di ba? Yung soundbite niya na baka may iba dyan na hindi kaya manalo presidente, di ba? Sinabi ni Senator Amy, baka sila yung gusto mag-udyok ng change. And you're right. I think the last admin has proved na kayang buksan, yung foreign ownership rules.
Right.
Pwedeng palitan na hindi kailangan nagchachacha. That was just proven over the last couple of years.
Ayun nga lang, pag binuksan mo ng economic provisions, you also open the discussion on other provisions like political...
Right. And Senator Amy, echoed everyone's fears. Ito naman yung kinakatakutan nating mga taong bayan, di ba? Na yun nga, alam mo, minsan pag binuksan mo yung pinto para pumasok yung bisita mo, minsan may nakakalusot na lamok, ipis, ganun, di ba? Or whatever. So yun yung siguro yung fear na once binuksan mo na, ang dami na nung pwedeng magyari. Pero tama rin yung thought niya na, bakit nga biglang pumasok yung Senate, The Senate has entered the discussion.
Kasi the President has ordered
Exactly,
the
but
Senate
why did he
to
order?
lead. Kasi nga, kumbaga, imbis na mawala ng boses yung Senado dun sa joint voting that is being pushed by the People's Initiative, kayo na lang mag-lead, para may control kayo kahit pa paano dun sa diskusyon.
Oo, pero magiging na naman to, mabubuksan na naman dyan yung con-ass tsaka yung con-con. So other ways of doing it.
Speaking of which, tuloy, di ba, yung investigation dun sa People's Initiative and, yung
mga umiikot
pinag-uusapan yung meron ba talaga ng susuhol, yung mga bribery ng pagkokolekta ng mga signature. And there's support is being shown by other senators dito sa resolution nga ni Senate President Mig Zubiri na kahit si Senator Robin Padilla na chair ng Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments, parang nagpapakita na rin, di ba, ng support na hindi sa kanya binigay sa pangunguna ng discussion di ba, nung back then
Kasi kay
Senator
Angara binigay this time.
Right.
Wait, teka, may safe statement pala si Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Ito siya, basahin natin. Napakagandang balita po ito para sa bayan. Magkakaroon na po ng bagong sigla ang ating ekonomiya tungo sa pag-unlad ng buhay ng mga Pilipino. Kaya, may sinabi rin si Senator Angara. Ang mangyayari daw, ganito. A different type of constituent assembly sapagkat imbis na uupo ng isa yung Kamara at saka yung Senado, yun ang pangkaraniwang idea ng constituent assembly dito, parang dadaan sa pamamaraan ng batas. Okay, not gonna lie, medyo na-confused ako.
Medyo na-confused ako, pero ang tingin
Parang
ko,
naghang ako doon
ako
sa
ang basa ko doon ay ito, hindi malulusaw yung boses ng Senado. Imbis na isa, voting jointly, they will be separate houses and they will have different voices.
So, hindi madadrown out yung Senate,
Right.
which is yun naman ata yung main fear din no, ng Senate and other people who kind of view the Senate as the last bastion of, kumbaga, defender kung may maling ginawa yung kabilang
Pagdating
house.
sa charter change, they've always been historically the one opposing moves towards that direction. Now, from the Senate, let's move on to the House, where a lawmaker is alleging that there's already a timeline set by the administration for charter change. Marian Enriquez gives us more details on that. Marian?
That's right, Greg. Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel says the resolution filed by Senate President Mig Zubiri shows that the upper house has given into the pressure for Chacha, despite being sternly against it in the past. Here's what he said.
Mas nararamdaman natin ang desperasyon para baguhin na talaga ang Constitution kasi all routes possible are being explored. And before, we were still hoping na ang Senado ay magsistick, diba, doon sa hindi pag-prioritize sa charter change. Pero dahil na rin sa naging pronouncements mismo ng Pangulo na pag-aralan na talaga yung pagbabago sa konstitusyon.
Based on Manuel's information gathering, Congress is supposedly rushing to launch the People's Initiative for Chacha as a gift for President Marcos ahead of his next State of the Nation address, or SONA, set in July. In fact, Manuel says he received information that congressmen are eyeing to conduct a plebiscite on June 17. The timeline shows that after the December preparation, petition filing was set on January 15. Between January 16 to February 4, COMELEC is seen to determine whether formal requisites were met. And between March 6 to April 4, a public hearing on the petition is seen to be scheduled. Congressmen wanted to hold the printing of ballots between April 8 to May 3. They also wanted the plebiscite held by mid-June and certification of the proposal's approval by July 8, just in time for the President's SONA. The House majority, though, denied Manuel's allegations. They also denied bribery allegations to secure signatures for the People's Initiative.
Kung sino man nagsasabi, mga LGU na narinig nyo galing kay ganito, galing kay ganon, wala naman talagang basbas. I should know because nasa communications sa speaker, wala naman binigay si speaker na gano'n na we have to do this, we have to push this. There's no such thing. January, tas may mga plebiscito pa. I don't even know kung Congress will be ready for the plebiscite before the SONA.
And still on the People's Initiative, the camp of Albay Representative Ed Silagman is now eyeing to file a complaint against officials supposedly behind the supposed signature buying in their province. Lagman says this can be considered an election offense. Reg.
All right, thanks for more information on that, Marian Enriquez.
Another quick break for now. Right after that, China has warned the Philippines not to play with fire after President Marcos congratulated Taiwan's president-elect on his victory. The details when we return. Keep it here on One News.
watching the big story here on One News.
Now, the Chinese government summons the Philippines envoy to China just a day after President Marcos congratulated Taiwan's President-elect Lai Ching-te on his victory. China also warns the Philippines to not play with fire. Now, just some background on this. On Monday, President Marcos posted on social media X his messages of congratulatory to Taiwan's president-elect for his victory. He says the Philippines is looking forward to close collaboration with Taiwan, strengthening mutual interests, fostering peace, and ensuring prosperity in the years ahead. Now, this statement, though, did not sit well with China. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said Marcos seriously violated the One China principle. She adds that this also seriously violated the political commitments made by the Philippines to China. Mao tells the Philippines to not play with fire on the Taiwan issue. She adds that the Philippines should abide by the One China principle and immediately stop making wrong words and deeds on Taiwan-related issues. The Chinese government has also summoned the Philippine ambassador to China, Jaime Flor Cruz, to give them a responsible explanation on Marcos's congratulatory message. The Philippines Foreign Affairs Department clarified, though, that Marcos's message was just his way of thanking Taiwan for hosting some 200,000 OFWs in the territory. The DFA says the president also only wanted to congratulate Taiwan for holding a successful democratic election process. In the end, the agency says the Philippines reaffirms its commitment to the One China policy.
Okay, before we go, may oras ba para sa ating big picture for tonight? Right, what you are seeing now is the 102-year-old Santa Mesa Fire Station in Manila. Yes, 102 years old, meaning this was built during the American era, and moreover, that it survived World War II. Nandyan pa nga, no, yung mga ibang tools daw na ginagamit ng firefighters nung araw, katulad nitong fireman's pole made of brass. Nandyan pa rin ang telegraph machine used to send messages using Morse code. Wow. So bakit ba natin tinitingnan itong mga pictures ng Santa Mesa Fire Station? Well, that's because there is a plan to demolish the building due to the DPWH's road widening project on Ramon Magsaysay Boulevard. According to the Bureau of Fire Protection, the fire station building needs to be modernized due to its deteriorating condition. However, there are some groups that are against this plan, considering it a part of history as one of the last fire stations built during the American era. Renacimiento Manila is appealing to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, the NCCA, and the Manila City LGU to protect this heritage and cultural structure. But for now, there will be no demolition while the BFP waits for the building permit to determine whether or not the building is indeed a heritage site.
Diyan sa Manila, sobrang daming mga houses that can be classified as heritage site. Mga houses built during the
Private
Spanish
houses.
colonial time. Oo, ang dami.
And may I add, no, Gretch, na if these buildings survived World War II, I think we have to save them. Kasi almost nothing was left standing in Manila. So parang for me, yung mga kahit anong struktura na nakasurvive sa war, sa pagbobomba ng Japanese tsaka ng American troops, parang siguro naman dapat natin i-consider.
Maybe there's a way to work around it. To, di ba, improve, kasi may mga kailangan din syempre baguhin.
Yun
sa
nga lang,
tanda
ano,
nun.
ang
But wag
sinasabi
lang
lang,
talagang totally
it
demolish.
takes funding.
Right.
And will.
To maintain.
To maintain and preserve
Right.
buildings such as those. But it also sometimes just needs the spotlight to be able to get people's attention, to be able to look that way and value these heritage sites. So we do hope, if not the building,
NCCA and HCP, baka naman pwede.
malipat yung laman sa museum.
Correct.
At least, at the very least.
All right, so while we wait for the decision on whether or not the Santa Mesa Fire Station is a historical building, that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you and good night.